Okay, class, welcome back. And today I'll be talking about the coordination schema. So for some of you, it might be something new, and again, for some of you, it might be something old. Uh, so we have already done a little bit of a small exercise in framing your research questions and your objectives. But how will you evaluate them, or how will you break it down? How will you operationalize it? How will you achieve those? So for that, coordination schema is a framework predominantly used in the social sciences, which really helps you or enables you to come up with the data needed to achieve a particular objective. So it is basically a plan which can facilitate you in determining the linkages between your research objectives and the data you need from the ground, which can be empirically verified through which can really help you achieve the objective empirically. So, and maybe I'll go into the components first. So these are four components basically. Sometimes parameters come from complex variables, simple variables, and values. So parameters can be viewed as kind of your objective or your main topic, and some complex variables can be seen as the dimensions or the grouping of some interrelated variables. And then comes your simple variable, which are the direct measurable small indicators. And then how this indicator will be mapped, what will be the values for that. So let me kind of go into the complex. What is the complex? So a grouping of closely inter variables together are called complex under the complex variable. So it's kind of a dimension or a grouping, themes, I would say, or what categories, domains. These are some of the names of complex variables. And simple variable is the real unit which researcher can use for analysis. So let's go into variables. So variables definition, it by easy, it very simply means a variable is a characteristic or attribute of a person or a thing which you are going to be measuring. So again, a simple variable is a varying thing. Uh, so a study can have more than one value. So the word variable means as any characteristic which has more than one value is called variable. Okay, so what is a coordination schema? So it is basically a framework, kind of a table in which you are defining your own research. So let's talk with the parameter. So parameter is measured through complex variables, and complex variable is made up from simple variables. And simple variables are measured through value. So let's talk about an example which we have talked about recently in the previous lectures as well, poverty. So what is poverty is a parameter you're going to be measuring. You are going to evaluating it. You're going to be quantifying it. So for that you need some kind of dimensions or a complex variable. So dimensions can be economic, social, institutional, and sub-complex variables can be income, land holding, education, health. Okay, like social, you have break up into smaller dimension, that is education and health. Now coming on to your after complex variable, that dimension is directly measured from one variable. Okay, from one variable. So a number of simple variables can constitute and come up with the overall complex variable. So the simple variable is the direct measurable indicator. Okay, so let's income. Okay, so income by income can be through many options like agriculture, non-agricultures. These are your maybe income sources. And how will you measure it? The value, exact value. That is your maybe in Pakistani rupees, you're going to be measuring it in terms of land holding, you're measuring in terms of hectares, right? So you are breaking down your dimension into individual indicators, and those indicators are basically measured through some particular value. Okay, that can even be yes or no. That is a value. Okay, that is something which is measurable. And once it's measurable, it is directly contributing to a value of a simple variable. And that lot of simple variables are then collectively coming up with your complex variable. And all those complex variables will now be defining your parameter or your objective in your case. So, now these are different types of variables, and we will study those again once we go into the SPSS workshop later in the course, and we'll talk about this classification of variables as well. So continuous or discrete. Discrete means that it is defined. Yes, no, 0, 1 maybe. Continuous, which it is can be very much. There is no limit. So it can be that. So it can be qualitative as well. Okay. So again, independent and variable, you know, most of the time is like independent variable, which is being influenced from another variable. Uh, like we'll go into this directly later, but I would like to go into this exercise basically. Or I'll go into this example first. So your parameter is your, let's say another information is you're going to be measuring about some features of some particular person, some profile for persons, right? So you need a biodata for that person. Okay. So that you need age, gender, marital status. Those are simple variables that can be measurable. And how that age can be measured in years. How can gender be measured in male and female? How it can be measured status-wise, marital status, married, unmarried, or divorced, or widow. So these are marital status, that simple indicator, and the value which is measurable. So similarly, you break down maybe socioeconomic data status, education attainment. So for that education attainment, you need some values for that. Higher secondary, primary, illiterate, literate. Occupation, maybe you have options for that. Minor occupation, earning levels. So these you can see. So what I need you to do that you have already defined your objectives, right? So let's say a parameter is your objective, okay? And then you need to come up with the complex variables. You need to know how that complex variable or dimension can be measured. So which simple variables, and through that simple variables, you do need to know what sort of value or data you need to be collecting it. And I have added this source as an additional column, which will really help you in identify that this data will be collected from which area, which person, which institution, which at household level even. So source is there. So just revisit your objective. Let's save those. I think I deleted those. So some of you pasted your objective. So I'll start with the latest. I'll just copy this. This is by Samath, right? Samath, you posted, right? So okay. So for today's exercise, you have come up with your objectives. So your parameter is risk assessment. Okay. For this, you're doing log risk assessment. Yes, Salia, you want a question? You want a question?
Well, how do we have to convert those questions into objectives?
The same thing. Questions and objectives are very much interrelated, anyways. So the parameter is mainly what is the main purpose behind it. So for objective was basically for this example I was giving you, objective was to carry out risk assessment of exposed communities. And the question by Samad was that what are the risks to the community living in growth prone areas? That was the questions. And how was the objective to you can measure it using some kind of a risk assessment. So a parameter is risk assessment. So now the first is dimension. Risk assessment, how is it measured? Maybe it has some dimension. Are you measuring it via risk perception? Are you measuring maybe like exposure, right? Capacity. So these are some uh, complex dimension or complex variable. So then my next question is risk perception. Okay, let's talk about risk perception. How will I measure it? Maybe level of afraidness. Individual indicator I'm talking about of risk perception. And how will it be measured? Maybe from 1 to 5, Likert scale. Okay, level of afraid, I would say. How much are you afraid, right? And source, maybe community. So this is basically what you're going right now doing is you're converting your objectives, your research questions into something measurable, something which is quantifiable, or you are now you are what you're doing, all your concepts are now being translated into operationalized into something definite. Now it is that research question is basically guiding you what sort of data you need, what would be the values of it, and where will you get it. And that will ultimately help you in achieving the objective. For example, like this example, like graph is then divided to dimension, the risk perception scoring capacity, and then uh, uh, each dimension is measured through some set of variables, and that simple variables. And we now need to know that okay, this is the simple variable I have identified. These are the simple variables or indicators, and how will these be measured? Through some particular values. And if I get the value, from which, from where I will get it, community or maybe household survey or maybe institutions, and then that will come up with the value of a simple variable, and a set of simple variables will then constitute towards a larger value, which is the complex variable, and that will ultimately help us achieve the parameter of risk assessment, and that will ultimately help us achieve your objective. I hope I'm clear. So now I will open floor for the questions. Yes, anyone if you question? Yes, Salia, please.
Sir, this is a very concrete sort of a parameter. तो अगर हमारे थोड़े से
Give me an example.
indivisible
Okay.
type of
Give me an
sir,
example.
जैसे अब मेरा habitable spaces to be made sustainable and pleasant for humans in the post-pandemic environment.
Okay. Let me say sustainable. Let me give example and pleasant. Keyword used, right?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Sustainable, pleasant. I will also say habitable places. Okay. Right. So now, how will you measure sustainable and pleasant? Just take a guess, wild guess. It's not something definite. Take a, just have an idea.
Indicator होते हैं
No, just say
sustainability.
sustainable. Yes, sustainability. What do you mean? Economic sustainability, maybe. Sustainability, maybe. Okay, if you relate to aesthetics, maybe then. If you talk about pleasantness, what are the aesthetics or maybe something beauty parameters? Right. This is what you want. Maybe some kind of mental relaxation, maybe. What do you call? What do you mean by word pleasant? Okay. This is just I'm just hypothesizing, right? I'm just thinking that what could be the ways to measure pleasantness of habitable space. Anything in your mind?
सर फिर इस तरह मतलब प्री डिफाइन करना होगा हर वर्ड को जो मतलब थोड़े इस तरह के नॉन टैंजिबल किस्म के
यही तो बात है. That is the problem, that non-tangible, whichever which is non-tangible, you need to have some kind of understanding behind it. So this coordination schema basically really helps you in thinking that is your objective achievable or not, and if it is achievable, how will it be achieved? Okay, you might go for qualitative analysis as well. It's not purely for the quantitative part, it's also for qualitative as well. Like, okay, now mental relaxation, how will you pleasantness is a part, mental relaxation is a part of your uh, sorry, mental relaxation is a part of your pleasantness, right? So how will you measure mental relaxation? Okay, so that is something very qualitative in words, right? But again, mental relaxation can be measured through one or two different things, that maybe you can ask people that are they satisfied or not, level of relaxation, let's say. How much are you relaxed? 1 to 5. Okay, where do you get it? Maybe community. Okay. So again, you need to break down. So breaking down, that is the definition of this coordination schema, that you need to break it into the lowest order of measurement. Okay. So that is the main purpose behind it. So now most of you have already now come up with your objectives, right? Objectives or questions. So why not you just have an exercise of this coordination schema, and then you will know that you have just written that this is objective I want to do. Now, coordination schema will compel you to study more. That okay, I wrote this, but how can I do this? How do I measure this? How do I quantify this? So coordination schema will help you in that. Again, if any questions, please don't hesitate. Please feel free. Yes, Rizwan, please.
सर मुझे इस एक्सरसाइज की कुछ समझ नहीं आई.
ओके ओके क्या नहीं समझ आया? ओके
सर बस सर के
ITS. ओके आपको बताता हूँ, आपका था ITS, राइट? ITS. How do you measure ITS? How do you know that this is ITS or not? What are the parameters to measure ITS? That is this an intelligence transportation system or not?
सर maybe सर ट्रैफिक काउंट के थ्रू या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक टोल कलेक्शन सिस्टम के थ्रू इस तरह कोई सिस्टम होगा.
Okay. So for that is what I'm saying, that coordination schema will ask you to do research. So now you need to research on what is ITS and how do we measure ITS? How do you understand ITS? What are the parameters? What are the dimensions of ITS? Okay. So basically, once you go study behind ITS, then you will know that how will you measure it. Clear? Rizwan, idea हो रहा है आपको?
हाँ जी सर हो रहा है.
Okay, let's say again IT institutions are they ready or not? Okay. Maybe community. Okay. So you have to judge IT number of, let's say, mobile phones per 100 people. Okay, 100 people. So we will have one value out of 100, let's say 50. We are measuring it like there will be a specific numeric value for it, right? And we can get it from community, right? I would say IT penetration. So IT, your intelligent transportation system is being, one of the potential is how much IT penetration is in the community. One of the big dimension of ITS is. I'm just assuming it. Of course, I'm not expert of ITS. I'm just assuming it. And how penetration can be measured? It can be measured number of mobile phones per people. This is the value, and this is how we connect it. So you're getting an idea, is one.
Yes sir, अब clear हुई है कुछ.
Okay, right? So once you're going to study, every one of you, when you will start make your objectives, go through your objectives, put it as a parameter, and then think about it. Then you will get your idea, that you will know that is your objective achievable or not, and if it is achievable, then how will you achieve it? That is the purpose of coordination schema. So it really really helps you in converting your concepts and your ideas into research, practical research. So all your theory literature view is now converting into actual research. So that is the very important part of your research. So coordination schema really helps you in that. I hope this is very important part. So I think I'll go through these. I'll give you the exercise of this as an exercise to all of you, and you revisit your objectives, revisit your questions, put it in this coordination schema, and then you will have more questions at that time, and I'll be happy to answer in the coming lecture. For right now, I think I'll give you an exercise for this. Right? Clear? Any question? You can have 1 week for this exercise because it is time. I think it will be time consuming. Any question? Anything? Hopefully, you will have more questions once you go through this exercise. Anyone, anything to add? Okay, so I'll share you this as an exercise on your LMS, and I'll share you the presentation, the full presentation as well. So thank you very much.